Hi guys, how's everybody doing? Thanks for joining me on another Saturday morning for some more stories. Okay, today's stories I first read out on this channel around early 2021. I've picked these out as 3 very good stories, and if you joined my channel after that date, you wouldn't have heard these, so hopefully you're going to enjoy these 3 stories. And those of you who have heard them, I hope you'll hear listening to them again. I think they're 3 very, very good stories. Let's jump straight into the first of 3.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I am an American in my late 40s. This story took place in December of 2019. I was in Pattaya at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. I also managed to visit Phuket on this trip. During the last 2 days of my trip, I became very ill. I had a sore throat, cough, and was very tired. It could be that I caught this new bug that is now going around. But remember, at the time, no one was issuing any travel advice as it was still unknown. So it may be possible that I had it, but I just did not know it, and I'm still not sure after all this time. Anyway, I started my holiday at the same hotel on Walking Street that I had visited in 2014. But this time, the experience was a bit different. For one thing, the disco across the street, Lucifer's, was open and in full swing until 6 a.m. So this meant that I had to plan my day and night's activities to be able to sleep. As I settled into my room, I remember reinstalling the Line app. I wanted to see if anyone I had met in 2014 was still active on the app. I knew that the 2 girls from my 2014 trip were both not available, as I had seen one posted on Facebook and the other had already said goodbye a year or so before this new trip. This time in Thailand, I really just wanted to take things slowly and try to remember things from the previous trip that I had made. The first thing I liked to do was to find a good bar with a good pool table and a good atmosphere. I also wanted to find a girl who was both attractive and who knew how to shoot pool. This is not as easy as it sounds. In my experience, it is difficult to find a bar girl who can shoot good pool. Some get good simply by playing customers every day, but for a lot of them, it isn't their preferred game as opposed to Connect 4 or similar bar games that they can win easily. In 2014, I played a lot of games with Ratna, and while she wasn't the greatest pool player in the world, she kept up, and of course, I enjoyed her company immensely. I wish that the girls I had met in 2014 were still here, but they weren't, as they have all moved on as they do. So back in 2019, one of the reasons that I like the hotel I was booked into is that it is situated right smack bang in the middle of Walking Street. It wouldn't be for everybody as it is quite noisy, but it is a great location and also has a feeder alley to the main road, which is very convenient. The people you see when walking along the beach road, whether they are girls or near girls, always asks where you go, which is normally followed up with, I go with you. A lot of the time, they will also try to grab you, stop you walking away. Dodging the grabbers along the beach road is truly an art form that takes practice in Pattaya. I actually have more fun just walking around Pattaya and interacting with everybody I see on the streets. My legs end up getting really tired, but I do not like my legs massaged. I know this sounds absurd because outside of Phuket, Pattaya must be the leg massage capital of the world. This all dates back to a time when I did get a leg massage and the lady massaged my legs so hard that I think I may have had some permanent damage. At the time, I figured she must know what she is doing. On my second day in Pattaya, on this trip, I met a girl online who ironically worked giving massages. The lady's name was Hatay. She was a good conversationalist, which is not always common, but sometimes you get lucky. It turns out that she could have been a budding tutor because she had a lot of stories to tell about Thai people in Pattaya. Hatay was from Buriram originally, but later went to work in Bangkok and then Pattaya. Hatay was also a budding business lady because she convinced me that I needed extra attention to some body parts more than others. I was not really looking for this, but this became a rare case in Pattaya where it turned out that it was in fact not up to me. Which was very strange because whenever I asked a Thai girl a question, the standard reply was, up to you. One night, I was walking past a go-go bar on Walking Street called Airport or Airplane or something like that, or at least it had a name that had something to do with aviation. Anyway, I caught a glance from a beautiful girl with dark skin. She didn't look like she wanted to be where she was at that moment, so I made a mental note to stop by there again later after dinner. I did go back, but here is the funny thing. I use earplugs when I go into go-go bars as they play the music so loud. I can sense hearing loss before I even enter the place. I took them out and put them in again, then entered the bar. I sat down and was asked what I wanted to drink. I had to take one of my earplugs out to hear the waitress, but I couldn't get it out. Yep, the earplug that I was using was meant for Thai people and were far too small for my ears. It got stuck in the canal of my ear. I told the bar manager what had happened and she directed me to a clinic up that feeder alley I told you about. The clinic was open even though it was quite late, and by the looks of it, this was good for business because they seemed to be ready as if they had just handled a bunch of cases. Looking at the pamphlets and brochures, I suspect they were used to handling many other cases than one I was present for. It took a while, but the clinic staff got it out and it only cost me 300 baht, not much, but enough to make me feel like an idiot in the first place. I went back to the airport go-go. As I entered, the manager remembered me. She had written down my drink order and now she gave the slip of paper to one of the servers to fulfill the order. As I waited for my drink, I noticed that the dark-skinned girl that I had seen earlier was now chatting with another customer. I enjoyed the entertainment and must have looked a little longer at one girl on stage because she made a beeline towards me when her session on stage was over. This pretty girl was named Kanda. She looked like she had mixed parentage. I really enjoy talking to these girls because they typically have a good story about how they came to Pattaya. I bought the mandatory ladies drink and she told me her father was an Indian and her mother was Thai. She had slightly darker skin than the other girls and her English was superb. We didn't speak for long when she noticed I had been looking over at the other girl. The short-haired girl that I had seen earlier, which I now know was called Wan. Wan noticed my glances and in a blink of an eye Kanda had called over Wan and they were sitting on either side of me. This was an odd predicament to be in. In my experience, a handful of girls is easier to deal with than two of them. I bought Wanna a drink. Kanna turned out to be very helpful as her English was far superior to Wanna's and she was kind of translating. At some point, Kanda took my hand and put it in Wan's, then she was off to dance again. The go-go bar was not packed and so that allowed me to dominate two girls at a time. If you buy these girls a ladies' drink, they feel obliged to sit with you for a while. After Kanda had left our table, the conversation dropped off due to Wanna's lack of English. I suppose you would be correct if you pointed out the obvious that the girls are not there to hold great conversations, but the thing is, I actually enjoy conversations with bar girls, and most of the time this is enough for me. After Wan's second drink, I mentioned that I didn't really do the bar fine thing, and I know that is what she expected at this point. I suggested that we exchanged the line app numbers. It might prove beneficial because we could use our phones to translate. I think this confused her a bit because the conversation was not going the way she expected, but we exchanged numbers anyway. I headed back to my hotel. It was still 2 or 3 a.m, still far too early for bed, as I would not be able to sleep until Lucifer's across the road had closed at 6 a.m. I decided I would move to another hotel the next day. I went over to the disco. If you can't beat them, join them. There was a band playing, so with earplugs in place, I ordered a drink and decided to stay for a while. As I am about to leave the club, I literally bump into Ying. Ying is a stunner. Hi, what's your name? Where you go? Hotel name you. And we exchanged line numbers. The next day, I was in Terminal 21 looking for food, when at the exact same moment, I get a message from Wanna. At times like this, I wonder if some Thai women have voodoo magic going on, or is this just the magic of Pattaya? "I busy, see you later," she texts. I reply, "Okay," but I didn't see her. In the evening, I walked past Airport Go-Go. I poked my head in, but she wasn't there. I sent her a text and I get the reply, "I sick, I not work today." "Okay, feel better," I reply. It isn't a big deal. The next day, it is New Year's Eve and I get a text around lunchtime. It's Wan. She says something about her boyfriend standing her up for lunch and would I like to get something to eat. She sends a photo of where she is and an empty chair on the other side of her table. I had to think about this for a moment. She never mentioned a boyfriend and we had only known each other for 3 days. Though at this point, I should point out that time knowing someone seems sped up in Pattaya. I thought it was interesting that she would reveal that she had a boyfriend and that he had stood her up. She went on to write down more about this situation, something about her stuff being at a hotel and she couldn't get it, etc. But I was not paying too much attention. Remember, her English was not great. I'm at the restaurant in 10 minutes. I sit down, we order. She starts to tell me about her Canadian boyfriend. I was a little confused. The reason is that the idea of a boyfriend and a girlfriend is not one that I think is mentioned a lot in Pattaya and actually meant in the same way as the rest of the world. So when she used the term, I had to try to think about what she actually meant by this. And it didn't help that our English was poor and my Thai non-existent outside of a few common words and phrases. After eating, we walked across the street to shoot some pool. Wan was not half bad and the evening was looking up. After an hour or so, we made our way to her friend's place, a beer bar on Soi 8. We ordered drinks. Her friends joined us, 1 guy and 3 girls. I ordered everyone drinks and we started up a series of pool games against 2 couples that had been playing throughout the day. One couple consisted of a German guy and his Thai girlfriend, and then an Australian guy and his Thai girlfriend who had his name tattooed on her arm. Things were going great as I really enjoy shooting pool. Although there were some communication difficulties, there were many more people around and I thought this was as good a place as any to spend my New Year's Eve. At this point, Wan says she needs to go home and freshen up for the night. She asks me to stay and her bar friend comes over to translate this part of our conversation. Wan's friend explains that she really wants me to stay there and wait for her to come back. I said sure and ordered another round of drinks. I suppose at this point I might have paid the bill and wandered around to do some more people watching, but the fact was that I had taken a shining to Wan and wanted to hang out with her some more, and anyway, it is not a great idea to be alone on New Year's Eve. Throughout the afternoon and early evening, I kept getting the suspicion that something else was going on. Wan's mind, and it was. She returned to the beer bar and we had another drink or two. I took a photo of her with a cute dog that was at the bar. I attached this photo for you to see, but please don't show it to your viewers. I know that you tend to like photos as proof of the stories that people send you. I suppose then that this photo would suffice. We started another game with the Aussie and his girl. I can't remember, but I think we lost more games than we won. In Pattaya, when you lose, you have to pay for the game. No problem, it was New Year's Eve anyway. As we were finishing this game of pool, another guy shows up. He sits down next to Wan and puts his arm around her. This must be the boyfriend she had been talking about, the one who had not spent the day with her, but has now shown up with half an hour to go until midnight. Wan looked calm but definitely flustered. The old saying is, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, but what happens if you have 2 in the hand? She did her best to pretend that she was working by refilling my glass from the beer bottle, but the elephant, or this case Canadian, was in the room. Now I should say that I did not know what the term boyfriend meant to her in this situation. From my perspective, this guy was just another customer. After all, this is Pattaya, and this guy is late 30s, early 40s, and it wouldn't be the match one would imagine happens outside of Pattaya. But I didn't know for sure. Perhaps he lived in Pattaya and indeed he was performing the role of a boyfriend. So I handed over the pool table to talk it over with my new Australian buddy. He said, unless a girl has your name tattooed on her body, it is all fair play or fair game. Of course, he could say this because his girlfriend had his stamp clearly visible. So I decided to go back over to the seating area. As I walked back over, thoughts raced through my head about this situation. Firstly, she and I had been chatting for a few days online. She made it clear we would eventually meet, and then she had made the call to invite me to the restaurant. Then we spent the majority of the day together at the beer bar. She specifically and repeatedly asked me to make sure that I would be staying at the bar while she went to freshen up and return. I was sitting with several of her friends and we were all having a good time. It was my expectation that Wan and I would be spending New Year's Eve together, and this was now a grey area, the reason being that technically this was not the bar where she worked and she invited me and we were among her friends. Sorry to repeat this, but it bears repeating. This made it a grey area, and to my mind, she had not done a good job in keeping her farangs separate. It was clear that she was using me as a backup in case this other guy didn't show up, and she was also using me as a way to make him jealous. Alas, I think this girl was not a good player of the games. I think she really did have stuff left at his hotel and was wondering if she was ever going to get it back. I leaned over and spoke to the guy. I said, look, she invited me today and I've invested my time in this situation. I ordered a lot of drinks and played a lot of rounds of pool, and I'm stuck around because of this girl. It is New Year's Eve and I have been operating under the assumption that I would ring in the new year with her, but clearly you have association with her. So I told him, if you agree to pay for the slips in the cup, I will be off and I will wish you all the best. So he said yes, okay, and we shook on it. I got up and said goodbye to the Aussie and German guys and walked down the street. The Aussie guys shouted after me, go down the street, get another girl and return to this bar. After just a few minutes, I get a call from Wan. She said she was upset with me because she had to pay the bill of 3,000 baht. I said that wasn't the deal I made with the guy, and if she was paying it, he was not a man of his word. He knew full well the deal I was making and even shook my hand on it. In any case, she had managed to put a major damper on my vacation and the New Year's celebration, and that was something money couldn't repair. We hung up and I dialed Kanda. She said sure, she would spend New Year's with me, but she was too far away to make it by midnight. So I dialed the message lady from the start of the story. I told her I was hungry and heading back to the hotel. She met me there, bought food and drinks, and we rang in the new year together. I will say that during the few days Wan and I spoke, she had given me her social media links. I followed her off and on for the past year. It turns out that not long after I left Pattaya, her Canadian boyfriend, who was no boyfriend at all except in her mind, had also left Pattaya. Later, Wana met a young Italian guy. During the time of the pandemic, I watched as he sent her money for one thing after another. He must have spent a fortune already. It was easy to see when the money was drying up because she would get angry and block him, only to unblock him a few days later. Based on what I have followed, she has been playing him like an absolute fiddle ever since. I don't know the real status of that relationship, only they do. But for those of us who have enjoyed your stories, I think we probably see that one as a train wreck waiting to happen, and the Italian will write to you next year. We shall then know the ending to that story. Attached, a photo of Kanda and another one of Wan. Wan is the one in the green shirt with a tattoo on the arm. And then the one with her and the dog I took this photo, Kanda has the white shirt. So that's one of the privileges of me being able to read out these stories. I get to see photographs that guys send me, and they're really interesting. It's a shame I can't share them with you, but it's obvious I can't share them. I normally take a look and then I delete them. The only thing I was thinking on this story was when the guy, he said he wears earplugs because he doesn't like loud music, yet he's checked into a hotel in the middle of Walking Street. I mean, who stays in the middle of Walking Street who's over, under 30 or over 30 years of age? It's such a noisy street. Even without Lucifer's, just the noise that comes up from the street. I don't think there's any high-rise hotels in the middle of Walking Street, so you're quite close to the action, as they say. Okay, that was quite a long one. Let's jump into story number 2. I've enjoyed a number of your stories, so thought I'd send you my rather ordinary story. Now in my mid-60s, I have been divorced for 12 years, reasonably well-travelled and thankfully fairly solvent. I am now retired and living in the UK. Before I begin this story, a little background. I visited Thailand some years ago, going to Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, over the border into Myanmar, then 14 days in Koh Samui, staying in the fisherman's village. This trip was taken with my long-term girlfriend at the time. Sadly, that relationship came to an end, mainly my fault. She is now happily involved with a man of her dreams, but we remain good friends. I had decided that I wouldn't visit Thailand again, as there were lots of other places on my bucket list still to visit. However, a very good friend of mine, Adam, had purchased a condo in Jomtien in 2014, as had an American friend of his, Tom. Having talked about it with him, he thought I should buy one as it would be an investment. Perhaps I should go and visit the area first and get to know a little about it. We arranged to spend some time there, so in November we headed for Thailand. We arrived in Bangkok, got out of our taxi into the city to meet his American friend Tom and spend a couple of days in Bangkok before going down to Jomtien. Although tired from our journey, we headed for the hotel bar, my first Singer beer of this trip whilst waiting for Adam's friend Tom. After a couple of beers, it was decided that we would have an evening out. So got ourselves changed, showered and headed for the bright lights. Firstly, Hillary 2, great fun, and then on to Nana and Soy Cowboy. I must say I felt a little like a child in a candy shop. The girls, the music, the excitement was all going to my head. We popped into a club. I hadn't done this on my previous visit to Thailand as it didn't appeal to my girlfriend. So I was a bit naive about this and I had to ask my friends what the etiquette was. They just said, if you like someone, just smile, then it's up to you. Goodness, is that all it takes? Drink in hand and watching the girls on stage, the most gorgeous Thai girl looking at me, I fancied her. She had the desired reaction, and when she had finished her time dancing, she came and sat with me. I asked this girl if I could buy her a drink, ladies' drink, and of course the predictable yes followed. I was in love. However, that was not to be. My friends had decided it was time to move on to see more of the area. Funny how I can still remember this girl. After a great time and a lovely pad thai from a street vendor at 4 in the morning, it was back to the hotel. We had arranged to meet up for breakfast. I had got there having only a couple of hours sleep. My friends didn't show up until nearly lunchtime. I had a brief swim in the rooftop pool, then a small walk around the area, and of course, what became my favourite, a mid-morning massage. We then hired a car to take us to Jomtien. We split up, them to their condos and me to my condo. Found through Airbnb. In the same block, it was very reasonable, working out at about £7 per day. Clean and tidy, balcony, one bedroom, etc. We spent the next few days exploring the area, having a few beers here and there, and just getting used to things. Adam and Tom had some business to attend regarding their condos, so they disappeared into pattaya quite often. Other than that, they enjoyed sitting on Jomtien Beach, unlike me, who liked to wander around getting a general feel for the area. I might add that they both had spent a lot of time in Thailand previously, so were old hands. Although we would meet up regular for the odd drink, we found a bar called Natalie's just off Beach Road, maybe Soy 2 or 3, I can't quite remember. Not the most upmarket bar in the world, but full of fun and laughs, and of course, we enjoyed evenings out in Natalie's bar. I like to find a place that I feel comfortable in, where I can watch the world go by and have a quiet drink. So I found my bar that I adopted, which much to their amusement, they eventually christened Jim's Bar. Long story. Time passed, we had lots of fun in Walking Street, another story altogether. Lots of fabulous Thai food. Having got to know the girls in my bar, they always looked after me, moving fans round me if I was hot, even sponged me down with towels they kept in the fridge. They treated me like a king and of course earned their ladies' drinks. Time passed all too quickly, and with only 5 days left of our time in Jomtien, the bar manageress at Jim's Bar asked why I was not with a girl. I hadn't been looking for a girlfriend, but had met quite a few girls, if you know what I mean. There was only one very pretty girl in the bar that I had taken my fancy, who sadly had been taken by an Australian man. She often smiled at me and once asked if she could come with me if she could get rid of her present guy. I wish. However, that didn't happen. The bar manageress said she knew someone who may wish to meet me, so I said fine, I'd be happy to meet her. A little while later, she introduced me to Nang, a pretty girl, but a little shy and not like the others. I asked her if she would like a drink, and before she said yes, she said, "I don't like farangs." Not the best of starts, but never mind. I said I would still buy her a drink. The atmosphere warmed a little and we started to chat, although her English was pretty poor, and to cut a long story short, I bar-fined her and she gave me a lift back to my condo. She was very sweet and told me her husband had died and she came from Laos and needed to support her children. She kept saying she wanted to return to her village as she didn't like the work, and I offered to pay her airfare. It was approximately £28 back then. I seem to remember, but she said no. In the morning, she had gone, her lovely smooth brown skin no longer next to mine. No word, just the washing up and tidying done. Oh well, I thought that was it. A couple of hours later, as I was considering going for breakfast, there was a knock at the door. Yes, you've guessed it, she was back. She had been to the temple. Anyway, 4 happy days later, no demand from her for money. She even lent me some in the supermarket as I had run out of cigarettes. Also, I told her I wouldn't bar-fine her every day, so I didn't. I bought her food, a dress and a tops, some phone credit, but she didn't ask me for money. When it came time to leave, we said our goodbyes and then I gave her some money, the change I had. I think about 1,500 baht. We kept in touch from time to time through line. She had returned to her village, sending me photos of the temple and her working on the family land, etc. The following year, 2016, my friends had gone back to Thailand, and lo and behold, who should they bump into but Nang? She told them she was having a really difficult time, and she asked if they had seen me. They said I wasn't in Thailand. My friend sent me a message telling me the story with a smile. I kind of guessed why he was smiling. He most likely got more than a message from Nang. But hey, what the heck. As she had been fair with me, I asked him to give her £20 on my behalf. They saw her the next day and handed it over. She and I kept in touch for some 3 years, just chatting and she telling me she was now back home. Photos of the family properties, her out shopping, etc., not asking for money for a sick family member or the sick buffalo. Sadly, out of the blue, I received a message, a long screenshot of Thai with photos of a bad leg and a photo of a bank account details. At that point, I realized she had eventually decided to ask for money. I immediately blocked her account. She continued to send lots of sorry messages, and why didn't I speak to her? She said she hadn't sent the long message and wanted to keep talking. I decided that it wasn't going to go anywhere, so stuck to my guns. We last spoke in July 2018. I had been thinking about her after hearing some of your stories and found her on Facebook this week. She looks happy and seems to have now settled down in her village and was wearing some sort of uniform. No indication of a farang, so I hope she has been able to settle back where she wanted to be and not having to dislike farangs in Jomtien. By the way, I didn't buy a condo but have been back to Jomtien just before the pandemic. My friend Adam was selling his condo and I was there to keep him company, and of course some great nights out on Walking Street. We are hoping to come back to Jomtien in January 2022 for another month of fun and games. This story just demonstrates that there are some of the girls really don't want to be there working. I wish Nang the best of times. She left a very nice impression on me, and I'm sure she is doing what she has to do to feed her children. Well, I'd go one step further than that. I would say 99% of the girls working in Pattaya don't want to be working there. There is no social welfare system here in Thailand, for very little. A lot of these girls get played by Thai guys when they're very, very young, 15, 16. They have babies. The guy turns out to be a useless guy. You know, he's either a womanizer or he gambles, loses all the money, or he just doesn't work and saps money from her. And, you know, a lot of the time the girls have family. They have to take care of the baby, maybe 2 babies, a sick mother. The stories can be true, actually. There isn't a lot of options. 300 baht a day working in the field or in a factory isn't a lot of money a month. So, of course, the bright lights of Pattaya can seem very, very appealing to a girl because they can make probably 10 times the money they could make in a field. So, you know, guys, if you go down to Pattaya, you've got to realise this. These girls are there to make money. They might like you, but they still need your money. Right, let's jump into our third and final story of the day. My story is about the way I prefer to meet female company when I holiday in Thailand. I first visited Thailand in 2013 and have visited twice yearly until 2019: Bangkok, Koh Chan, Hua Hin, Pattaya and Chiang Mai. I am mid-40s, in decent shape and of average looks. I often travel alone as I have a stressful job which is well paid, so I like to treat myself well when I get away. I learnt the ways of meeting women in bars, finding the one I liked and taking them out to a date. I don't really like meeting girls in bars in Thailand as it can get quite expensive with all the ladies' drinks and bar fines, etc. As I was looking for a long-term situation on my third trip, I downloaded the Tinder app before leaving Australia and reactivated it when I arrived in Pattaya. Immediately, the messages started and from all sorts, mostly working women. I found the app easier to ask trickier questions to the girls messaging me where to first meet, what they were interested in, money or friendship. So much easier than doing the face-to-face bit. I found this to work well for me. I would never meet at my actual hotel first or give its name. It would be a drink or a coffee and a chat at a nearby location, and then if there was a connection, it would be back to my hotel, which would end in aerobics. The safety aspect is always a worry, however. I would ensure my new friend left her ID card at reception. Check your hotel is guest friendly, otherwise you could be charged a joiners fee on checkout. Over the years, this has become my main way of meeting partners unless I see an extremely attractive girl at a bar when out. I have met 9 girls on the app. As I say, meeting girls on Tinder saves so much time, wasting and expense like when you are out in the bars. Only one meeting didn't go too well. The girl looked a lot different from her picture and she seemed a bit too full on for me, so I gave her a tip and brought her a coffee and that was it. I did manage to meet a lovely girl from Udon Thani who was working in Pattaya, freelancing though the dating app to supplement her dental studies in the daytime. She stayed with me for a week. We dined, went swimming and saw all the tourist attractions with aerobics included. We are still friends and meet up each time I can go back. I'm looking forward to seeing her again when we can travel. When with her for the week, I would pay for the meals, drinks and any shopping or transport costs we had, and I'm sure this saved me a few thousand baht over the week as she would sort out any prices that could be negotiated. People may think dating apps can be dangerous, but I have had no issues. I've always locked all my valuables away on my first meetings at a hotel: passport, cash, laptop, meds, keys, etc. into the safe. I think meeting, though, through dating sites is the way of the future. Getting scammed into buying ladies' drinks and taking someone back to drunk can be dangerous and not a good look for you with your hotel. I have found it safe, convenient, and I have met quite a few stunners. It's a lot easier to get to know someone sober, just to be straight up and confident and honest. The girl I'm regularly in contact with is 29, stunning and a very sweet person. The expectations have been fun and make my holiday super easy and stress-free and manage to keep me away from boozing every night and having a hangover the next day. You always have the option to cut the agreement short if things turn sour. Just start again. I'm not there to fall in love, just have some fun, so I keep my head clear and have a good time. If you treat them well, you will in turn be well looked after. Dating apps are the way of the future, I believe, and I hope I will be back using that service soon. I also think that the app worked well in Hua Hin and was very busy in Chiang Mai. Just be wary of girls wanting to meet you at her workplace. That means she's a freelancer working at a bar, which means a ladies' drink and a bar fine. He is kind of correct. A lot of guys, you can meet girls on Tinder, Badoo, all these kind of Thai dating apps. And the thing is, if you ask them honestly, what are you looking for? I'd say 95% of them will come back and they'll tell you the truth. They'll say something like, I'm looking for money, I'm looking for a customer, I'm looking for someone to hang out with. And it's true, you don't have to waste money on ladies' drinks and all the rest of it. I'll tell you a little story. I was in Kanchanaburi a few years ago with a friend who speaks very, very good Thai, an English guy, speaks almost perfect Thai. And we went into a very small bar. We checked into our hotel. We did our sightseeing in the day, had some dinner. It was now about 8:30. We went into a bar and I was playing pool for most of the evening, and my friend was sitting talking to this girl that was very attractive. She must have been about 25, and he'd been buying her ladies' drinks all night, and I do mean all night. He must have bought her maybe 8 or 9 ladies' drink. Come 2 o'clock, he told the girl, okay, how much is the bar? I want to bar fine you. And she said, oh, no, you can't. Somebody's already bar fined me. So what had happened is some guy, a regular guy, I guess, who lives there, had come in early, maybe 7:30, paid her bar fine, but went off and said, I'll be back when the bar closes. Yet this girl sat with my friend and took drinks off him all night. Well, of course, because he spoke Thai, he said, he took all the bins out of the pot that had her drinks on, and he basically told her, I'm not paying for them because you kind of deceived me. Of course, the mama-san came over and he told her straight in Thai, and a little bit of towing and throwing and arguments, but in the end, they took the bills off him. He didn't have to pay them. Mama-san tried to put the guilt complex on him and said, okay, well, she'll have to pay them. And he was like, well, that's nothing to do with me. She's been drinking with me all night, and that was it. So these sort of things can happen. So you've got to be very, very careful. You don't want to be. Ladies' drinks are very, very expensive these days, upwards of 200, 250 baht. So you buy, half a dozen ladies' drink, and then you get turned down. It's not very nice, is it? Right, that's it once again, guys, for this week. Thanks very much for listening to the stories. I'm always looking for new stories. You know where to send them. I'll change names and make them anonymous as always, and you too can hear your story read out right here on Thailand Bound. Thanks again, and I'll catch up with you once again next week.